Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of the Spectators podcast. This week we'll be going over a few things, talking some Champions League, the quarterfinals was played, the other European competition quarterfinals that were played, a bit of NBA to the end, nothing too deep this week, and touch on the draft, both the NBA, the WNBA, and the NFL draft coming up. So, see you guys soon. Okay, I'm back, guys. Great to have you guys here. So, this week we'll be talking about the Champions League, as I stated earlier. We can start with Arsenal versus Bayern. Arsenal 2, Bayern 2. This was the first leg played in Arsenal, and for me, it left me to question a couple of things. And this includes Arteta's consistent struggle in Europe. As in, this is my personal opinion, my personal take on it. But I am not sure if he's at that level yet where moving to Europe is a different type of ball game. We've seen managers, even for example, when Unai Emery was at the club, he struggled in the league but performing in Europe. So as much as the sport's the same, the competitions are vastly different. Of course, it's a knockout competition versus a league competition. There are certain perspectives of the game, certain ways that it's played. You're playing away in another country. The fans might be different. The atmosphere is different. And I do think he has not quite grasped that as yet. And I think this showed up in the lack of the defensive composure. As in the league, Arsenal has one of the best defensive record and are usually composed, more or less, especially the centre backs and the goalkeeper. Now, looking at it, the ones who were most at fault were the centre backs and the goalkeeper. Gabriel was not covered enough, of course, for Kivior, but I think that's because of a change with Zinchenko, where he would have to be more minded on to when to shuttle across to help him or provide support. But now, having Kivior there, it was a bit more like, okay, everything should be fine. And also, Saliba was out of the game, so for me, it was quite disappointing as a result. I also think that another perspective is that Bayern had zero fans in the stands. And well, that situation happened because of when they played Lazio before in the round of 16. There was a fan that actually threw fireworks into the stands, Lazio fans. And for them to pull that off without actually having to have fans there and have that support, which of course to some doesn't have relevance, but I do think having the supporters there creating the ambience helps a team or cheers a team down, up, depending on the state of the game. So the game state could have been, they needed a goal or, they went down. Arsenal took the game in the beginning, but after lost their footing just by a couple chances that they gave Bayern Munich. And I mean, one of the goal scorers, of course, was Kane. I think against Arsenal, I think he has 15 goals in 19 games. That's a crazy record, It's almost getting to a goal a game, but it's impressive. Even if he's a striker, I think being able to do that is phenomenal, So you have to give him the respect, even if he's not going through the best period as it relates to winning a trophy. And finally, on this game, I do think there are cases for the penalty shouts, but I think it's one of those situations where they probably just kind of balanced each other out. Gabriel picking up the ball randomly. Some people assume that it's to kill time. Some people assume it's to reset the game, not being sure of where the ball was coming from, versus the penalty shout at the final moment of the game where VAR was not fully consulted. That was a bit strange, but I think at the end of the day, those type of penalty shouts right now in the sport throws me off a bit, because it's like that there will be contact, but you're putting yourself out there to get the contact in an effort to get the foul, but also simulating. So, I mean, it shows that there's danger, but also at the same time, did it really need to happen? But we'll move on now to the other game, which was the Madrid versus Man City, which ended 3-3. That game was played in Madrid. And to be honest, I was not expecting such a high scoring game. Ancelotti somehow gets this team to play. Really amazing. Really chaotic football when it needs to be. And I think this was a response to Pep, because Pep's the type of manager that usually plays well under control, controlling the game, dictating the play, and he was not allowed to do this with Madrid. Ancelotti, I think it's an example, as I harken back to when I was speaking about Arteta. He does not have that type of composure in these situations when it comes to the big European nights. I mean, of course, Arsenal going back to the second leg, I believe that they need to get their head down and find a way to do this in Munich. I'm not sure if it's that easy, and I would really love to see how they can pull that off, to be honest. But yeah, back to Madrid. They thrived in the chaos. And interestingly enough, I don't think I've seen this a lot, but all of City goals were from outside the box. No, that is, as in with Pep type of football, it's not something really common. They do try to get the ball into the box via crosses or cutback, and I think that both teams adapted to each team amazingly. And I have to give some props to Tchouaméni playing at centre back. I don't know how much longer he can do this for his career and development, but he did put a shift in. But I believe they need to think about a solution for the second leg, because playing Tchouaméni at centre back, when, to be honest, City does have a lot of dynamic players, and not to say that Tchouaméni is not dynamic. It's just that the type of movement that's required in the midfield versus the type of movement that's required in the defense is different, and even the mindset and the communication. I mean, he's training with them, but I still think it's a problem. Where on the other hand, we have someone like Rodrigo who was shining the whole game. I don't know if Walker playing would have changed much or made it much more difficult for him to stand out, but no, I think he showed, as much as the rumors have been going around about him moving and leaving at the end of the season, even Liverpool interest, I do think there's a talent in there. I think he does have the capability to perform when needs be, and I'm looking forward to see what the second leg will bring when they go back to City. I think it should be exciting. I would love to see even how they will set up both sides. Definitely, it was a bit weird or a bit strange not seeing KDB in the starting lineup. Was it injury? Was it a lack of form? Was it team fit? Which would be surprising, seeing that no, he is the club captain appointed after Gundogan left last season. So I really look forward to this second leg. I really believe that it should be exciting again, and a lot of goals hopefully would come out of this one. So we can move to the game between a lot of Barcelona type figures, with both managers coming from Barcelona and having managed Barcelona at some point in time. I think earlier in the week, Enrique was saying that his style of play, his teams represent the Barca style more than Xavi Hernandez. But it was Xavi who left Parc des Princes 3-2 up. Of course, the away goal rule does not stand as it used to back then, but I do believe that Barcelona turned up in a way that was not expected by many, even though I think PSG had a difficult time with the defensive reworking that they had to do, seeing that Hakimi wasn't available and Marquinhos had to play right back. But I do think they really made that a game, and Enrique did make some adjustments, which I think gave them that 2-1 lead. But again, the defense was sleeping. Mbappe was not as dominant as he usually is, and according to some stats, not that I'm always tied to stats, but some of this had to do with Kurbasi. He did not complete all of his dribble. He lost most of the duels against Kurbasi one on one, and I was impressed that this kid is 17 and still, I'm providing this on the big stage and also in the Champions League quarterfinal away from home. So, Barca La Masia will always have those talents that are, forever outshining. It's always like, is this a young person or not, And I think we also learned from the game that Dembele, Ousmane Dembele, still has it. He is one of those that forever I think people will be torn on when it comes to debates in the bars and whenever friends meet up, like who was a better winger, comparing him to someone else. He is so talented, dribbles so well, and knows how to control his change of pace. He could have, I think he could have been to Neymar's level. Some people can argue on it or not, but I think he could have been one of the best footballers if he was not handling himself in the manner that he has been handling himself. And I think, speaking about wingers, another one that really shined during the game was Rafinha, who went back to like the Leeds days, when you would be like, yo, this is the danger man on the team. And this was him playing on the weaker wing due to Lamine Yamal being, the new star within Barcelona. So I think there's a lot to play for going back to Barcelona, the Camp Nou. I think Enrique will hope that he will have all of his weapons, and of course, even playing the team in a manner where they can practice with that in mind, seeing that they don't have much to play for within their league, while Barcelona still has to keep that stronghold on second place, being that Girona is not going to bed, having an amazing season. So I really look forward to how the next leg will turn out. It's hard to make a prediction on this one, but if I am to go with my gut, I do think Enrique could pull it off, even if it's to go 1-0 and go to extra time. I do believe that what I've seen from Barcelona versus what I've seen from PSG, just comparing those two sides in isolation, I believe PSG has shown more consistency and more, willingness to attack a team in a form that, not everyone can adjust to. And Barcelona, with adjustments, I don't know if it's still the same like Barcelona of old. So, yeah. Now, speaking of going back to Spain, I would say Atleti played Dortmund in Atleti Stadium, the Wanda Metropolitan. And I think everyone has been seeing this season and has noticed the same thing that, everyone has probably noticed that Atleti is playing a more expansive football game. I think this is something that is costing Simeone some defensive, not even defensive, it's organizational structure within his team that he can't keep teams as quiet or keep teams out of the game as much when you have someone like Dortmund who, as much as they are not consistent and you can't really follow every movement that they make and every change that they make, and to be honest, week in, week out, they could lose to the best team or the worst team, but then they could also demoralize the best team and then also demoralize the worst team. So I think on that front, it was a tough situation for. I think it would be a tougher situation for Simeone looking at it now. I think he goes into the next season, the next leg, sorry, thinking about how can he get his team rigid enough, because they're going back to Dortmund, who has, the yellow wall. When they come out to support, I would believe that it would be a lot of fans, a lot of noise, a lot of support for Dortmund, and I mean, to find one goal to tie the tie, I think should not be impossible within the 90 minutes that's left within this leg. And I mean, we saw it almost at the end of the game. If Brandt header went, I don't know, 2 millimeters on the side, he hit the post quite a few times. I think we would have had quite a scary setting for Simeone going back to um, Dortmund playing. Yeah, I mean, as hard as it is to understand them at times, I do think, they do have some kind of structure. I think even how Atleti started was impressive, kind of keeping Dortmund on their toes with the press and how they would throw them off and all of that. But I mean, at the end of the day, the 2 goal margin was way more valuable, I think, than the 2-1 margin, because now finding one goal should be not easy, but easier than Atleti of the old, So I think that's it. But I'm now speaking on the day of the rest of the Europa quarterfinals being played, and I do think there are some big games to be played. Now, some of the big games that are going to be played in the Europa League quarterfinal, which I have interest in or would be looking forward to see, we have the AC Milan versus Roma, which is still an Italian derby, more or less. But I would really love to see how Daniele De Rossi manages this, because he has been there for a lot of big European nights. And AC Milan, as much as they are above Roma in the league, and I mean, De Rossi has been there for a short period of time, but has had a big impact, even winning the massive derby against Lazio on the weekend, over the weekend. So I think AC Milan does have a structure, does have a way to play, but I still think that this match might be really, really exciting, and I think Roma will not go on the defense. I think this match might be an explosive result. I think, you know, the way how Dybala has been playing, and then Leao has been playing well. Giroud, if he's in the starting lineup, will make an impact. I'm really excited to see how this actually plays out. And I think it will be tough. I think it will be tough between both legs. I think both teams know what's at stake. I think Italian football is in a specific place now where they could also gain a Champions League place, if I can recall correctly, if they do perform well during these European competitions. So, yeah, I think this matters, and I think, it will be exciting and interesting to see. And speaking of interesting, another game that I would love to see how it plays out, and I do have ideas of which way it might go, but of course, you never really know in a game of sport, is the Leverkusen versus West Ham game. Of course, this is starting. The first leg will be played in Leverkusen, but I think this might be somewhat of a test for Xabi Alonso, as in he's been unbeaten all season, has not lost any games, and I think, of course, he is very innovative, more so innovative than, I would say, David Moyes. Not to throw any shade on David Moyes. I was in West Ham are the defending champions of this competition, so they do have the capability of winning this or going as far as possible. But this is supposed to be one of the quote unquote other trophies that Xabi Alonso should be securing this season. I mean, depending on the next opponent and the next leg. But I think this match might tell us a lot of things about, you know, it would be telling us more about Leverkusen and Xavi Alonso more than it would be telling us about West Ham, because I don't have the most hope for West Ham. I do know that Moyes is capable of setting up a team that, you would be like, okay, wow, this can be done, or they can perform a specific way. But I still it still hasn't connected with me. But I'm really excited for this fixture, and I do think that at the end of the day, Leverkusen will show. I think as much as you can watch as much tactics and analysis on how Leverkusen has been playing this season, I do think they still figure a way out. And I think that's the way I'll ride the horse until the end of all of this. And the final matchup that I find interesting, of course, I think Benfica will be playing Marseille, which is somewhat interesting, but I mean, heritage wise. But the next one would be Liverpool versus Atalanta. And to be honest, I think Liverpool will decimate Atalanta again. I know last time this first leg will be played in Liverpool, but I think Atalanta got 5-0. Yeah, they lost 5-0 to Liverpool, and I think Gasperini plays that open side of football. He plays that pressing type of football, that expansive passing game type of football, a dynamic movement type of football, which Klopp I feel like goes well against more times than not. And I feel like this will just be a game, not just for the youngsters, but for some Liverpool players to find some form or some kind of fitness. I think he might, Curtis Jones will get a start or something, someone at the start. Probably try to bring Matip back, Gomez. Maybe we even see Trent. I'm not sure where Trent is as it relates to the schedule. But yeah, I think get some legs running out. I would love to see how Atalanta manages this game. I would love to see how Coop Miners plays this game, because he's been one that I think will be leaving at the end of the season. And to be honest, Liverpool might be a good option for him. Well, maybe not as much now than during the summer window. The other big matchup I think that I'd consider would be going to the European Europa Conference League, and this is the good evening matchup, which would start in Aston Villa versus Lille. Now, I think Unai Emery has been doing fascinating with Aston Villa so far this season, and I think yeah, I think he has the capability to pull something off. I think Lille has been good. I've not seen a lot of their games, but I do know about their young defender that has been playing well. And I think maybe Watkins, Bailey, Diaby, he has some options. There are some people back from there are some fit players, and there are also some players who are not 100% back. But I believe that it should be a good evening for Aston Villa. I think they should be able to hold this one out, at least at home, even if it's to get on the break early, get a couple goals. And when I say couple, two, I don't mean that much. I think Lille knows who they're going up against, and yeah, I look forward to that one. All right. So now I just wanted to end this episode with just a little bit of talk about the NBA. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of people giving their opinions on the MVP race, and it's very weird the amount of hate. And it happened last season also, but with a different storyline. Last season, it was some like I don't know, race baiting or something as it relates to Joel Embiid versus Jokic, and why Embiid should win it or why he has not been considered this many times. And for me, that was just I don't think it's that serious. I don't think it's that serious. And this year, it's know that, yeah, why would we have someone who is not of the style or the image or the energy of an MVP win the MVP, when my question at the end of the day is no one else really stands out to win it. And his team is going to be either the best first or second seed. I'm not sure at this point in time if OKC can get back up to the second or first. I mean, of course, teams can implode, but it's just, I think, three or so games left in the season, maximum five. And yeah, I mean, he's performing well. He plays every game way more than everyone else, every big star, more or less. And yeah, I think for me, it's a no-brainer. I feel like this season is his. I don't think I support OKC, but I don't think Shea has done a lot, and he has definitely put himself in the names, for at least this season in the top 10 players that you think about. He'll be definitely should be a first team ballot all NBA, but I think yeah, this one's hands down for Jokic. Another player who has been an MVP before, speaking about MVPs, Giannis. Giannis will miss the rest of the regular season for sure. That would be about, I think they have 3 games left. They're in the second seed, I think. Yes, they're in the second seed. And they want to defend that now, going into the playoffs being this close. And yeah, I think it's pretty scary for them now. I think looking at it now and seeing that, for me, it's always scary to see non-contact injuries take place whenever a player is just walking and fall like that. Usually, I remember that happened to Durant. I think when he was on the Warriors, I think the last season when he even came back and played in the playoffs and actually had the injury get worse, his ACL, I think. I didn't see much when it relates as it relates to Giannis's injury, but I mean, I don't see where the Bucks will lie if Giannis is out for the season. I genuinely think I genuinely don't know if Dame can actually handle getting them at least through the first round, because I mean, even if Giannis comes back during the playoffs, he won't be 100%. So even after the playing and the 3 games, I still think that he would need to get back. I don't know, take his time, get back to probably, I don't know, 50, 60. I genuinely don't know how to gauge that. But I mean, you don't come back 100% match fit from an injury like that. Even mentally, there'll be some kind of fear of reinvigorating the injury or something like that, re-triggering that injury. So I think, yeah, I mean, this is the time now for Dame to show Dame time, more or less. He moved there, and I don't know, him and Doc being the 2 new additions there, I think I'm just not convinced. I do think they will perform in the East, and I mean that might just be something that they're fortunate about. And yeah, I think we'll see. I still think they'll struggle. I think they'll really struggle if they're supposed to go without Giannis for at least the first round. Um, Finally, well, not finally, but interestingly enough, the Celtics game this week was crazy. That's the game, I think, with the lowest amount of free throws called, attempted in any regular season game, which was, I think, 2, which was in the fourth quarter, close to the end. The refs has changed the way they've been managing the game, and I really think this makes it very interesting for the playoffs. I mean, of course, we know playoffs, they don't get every call, but this is like a next level, with a bit more meatiness. So I'm really looking forward to how this will play out. And I think it also like gave a little nudge to the Celtics, because they do live or die by the 3, and I mean, they did, play with some physicality. I think they took like 27 of their shots within the paint, but of course, not getting the calls. But also, they missed, I think, 35 threes in this game. I think they focus a lot on just having these 3-point shots, trying to outshoot the team. I get the numbers behind it, but I do think if something is not working, you need to make adjustments in order to have that work for you. You know, I think I think I think that that is very important, and I mean, I just don't know. I just don't know if, as much as they've been dominant this season, probably one of the best teams in the NBA, hands down, I still worry about their like them being reliant on the 3 point ball as the way to go forward, even when it's not going down, you know. So, yeah. Yeah, so as I said, I wanted to just end this episode with a bit of draft talks. Now, I mean, of course, the WNBA now just will be starting, I think, next week with, some amazing female basketballers, women's basketball players going from college to the WNBA. And I think it will shift the WNBA because there's so many eyes that was on March Madness. And I mean, we have players who have declared like Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. We have, I think Cardosa did, right? Um, Cameron Brink. I mean, those players will definitely have people who watch the March Madness just to see them at least start watching the WNBA. And I think it would be interesting. I mean, I see a lot of mock drafts, and it's very interesting where Angel Reese fell. I'm not sure if she's I mean, I think wherever she goes, she'll perform. I think she knows how to dominate a game, and of course, she would need to adapt to the women's game. But it's been fascinating to see her play 90% of the times. So, I mean, this is all interesting. I feel like Caitlin Clark has changed how people watch the game. Definitely the women's game, to be more precise. But I think she dominates in a way, or she has this impact that reminds me very much of Steph Curry. And I mean, it would be crazy if initially just going to the league and performing the same. I mean, there's I've heard that there's a big difference between college and moving up there because it's playing NCAA or even just college sports. It's you're still not doing it professionally, even with the NIL contracts and stuff like that. I think I think there's more to it. You become that becomes your job more or less, and that affects how you play. It affects how you think about the game. You learn more about the game. You stay more in tune with the game, and therefore it can maybe take over your life. Well, it does because it becomes your life more or less. So I think the WNBA draft will be interested, and I think it will affect the WNBA in positive ways. I think even the final, the championship, the NCAA championship game against South Carolina Gamecocks, I think to have 18.7 million views is mental. I don't know the numbers going back in history, but I feel like that's phenomenal. Yeah, and the men's game now. Well, I mean, I'll be talking. I'm curious about the NFL draft just a bit this year. I mean, Seahawks, my team that I support, don't have much skin in the game as it relates to that. I think they're doing a rebuilding, but I think the QB stories are very, very fascinating. Like with using the number one pick to get a QB, how often has it been a success? I think it's so rare. It's something that you can't always bank on. I, this season, this year's draft, Caleb Williams has been the hot topic. But I mean, outside of him, of course, he is a talent. But outside of that, I don't think he gives the energy of you know taking the sport as serious. I think that's the opinion that some people have of it. I genuinely don't. I genuinely don't agree. More or less, it's one of these things where, you could go to class, you can be relaxed in class, or might not participate in class, but when it comes to time to do the exam and to perform, you can. And I feel like he has it within him. But I mean, the names like Drake May, I feel like I don't know where he stands in the sense of being, you know, a starter. I don't know how many. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I don't know how many QB picks this year are starters. When like you compare someone like, to be honest, I don't think I see a lot of starters. I think maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. is the only one that I see like, okay, first weekend he'll do something, and maybe Caleb. But yeah, I think NBA draft should be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, maybe not watching it live, but seeing the grades and stuff like that will be given. So, yeah. So thanks, guys. I think this is the first draft of the Spectators podcast, and I feel like we got some things done, and hopefully in the next couple of days I'll have some more news, some more topics to speak on in the world of sports or in the world of culture. Hopefully in the future I'll probably bring a guest on. Whatever the topic is, it's something that you can watch, something that you can spectate. So it could even be music, who knows. But yeah, thanks for your time. See you guys later in the week. See you guys next episode.